Hey everyone, No More Op4 here. Out here in some state game lands in western Pennsylvania. Today going to do a short little video on just basic winter survival. My YouTube page is kind of new, still building it up. One of the things that I've wanted to do for a while now was get a how to make a fire video, and was kind of waiting around for spring, but then I realized, it's not easy to start a fire in the winter. People that are inexperienced, it can be very difficult, and if you do get trapped out in the wilderness or wherever you're stranded, you have to spend the night outdoors, it's going to be pretty important to learn how to make a fire, because with temperatures as cold as it is right now, and depending on where you live, maybe even colder. Right now it's about 20 degrees. Wind chill picks up, we're looking in the single digits. Nighttime, you're looking at negative, maybe negative teens. So you need to know how to keep yourself warm. We're going to go over how to make a fire and some other basic winter survival tips for the outdoors. So let's get started here. You can see that I've picked a location basically for my fire to be. I've dug it out here. Just a small space, I'm going to get to the details of that in a second here. But what you're looking at, what you want to be looking for, is you want to find a place that's kind of sheltered from the wind. So I did pick this place. There is some thicker brush around here. It could be used to my advantage, depending on how long I think I'm going to have to stay here. But for right now, this is a good starting point. So I'm going to get to getting wood and everything here in a minute. But other reasons why I chose this place, and these are things you have to be cognizant of. You want to make sure that you're not directly underneath any large limbs that might fall with a strong gust of wind, or overnight, or just randomly, and come down and hit you. One side note I wanted to discuss before I really got into any of the more detailed talking points, kind of the three principles or the three aspects of survival that you need to have to make it out successfully. The first of those is the kit. If you're expecting to be outside, you're going to be properly prepared. I'm dressed because I knew I was coming out here. I'm dressed properly for the cold weather. I've got layers on, as I'm working I can take them off. Also, I have necessary tools I need. I have woods knives, I've got a shovel, basic fire starting things I'm going to show you in a minute here. But those are all part of the kit, and based on what you're doing, you need to have those prepared. But the kit is the least important of the three aspects. Beyond the kit is knowledge. You need to know how to survive out here. You need to have techniques. You need to practice starting a fire, making a shelter, finding food, finding water, things like that. You need to have the knowledge beforehand so that when you're out there, you know what you're doing, or at least you have a general idea. This doesn't mean you have to sleep outside every weekend, but get out and enjoy the woods. So you need to get out and practice starting a fire and going over all the different techniques out here, because when you're trapped in a wilderness or survival situation, if you don't have any previous experience, it's not really going to matter how much of a kit you have. You spend thousands of dollars on a kit, and it's not going to do you any good if you don't know how to use the stuff that you have, or you don't have any common sense out in the woods to know how to survive. The third and most important aspect of, the three principles that I go by anyway, is will to survive. If you're trapped in a wilderness situation, you're out, days from rescue, and you know that it's going to be up to you to put your mind to use for you to get out of whatever situation you're in. The will to survive is the most important aspect of survival. The will to live. you're determined that you're going to get out of there. Once you start getting down on yourself, you start getting lethargic, you spelled your own doom. So those are the 3 key points that I go by, at least for wilderness survival: your kit, the knowledge, and the will to live. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's a school of thought that some people go by. Count me among them. So next thing we're going to do here is we're going to start talking about the fire pit. Okay, so here's where I've selected to start my fire. Now, obviously you're not going to want to build on top of the snow, so what I did here was I've started to clear out down to the actual earth and kind of brush some of it away. Now it is going to be wet. For the purposes of this, I'm probably just going to put a bed of dry sticks over top and start my fire on that. But usually what you would want to do, if you can, is get some logs and place those down. They can be green, doesn't matter, they can be damp, because you're going to try to put dry dirt or rocks over top of those and then build your fire on top of that so you have a dry platform. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to do a little makeshift thing here. The sun is hitting this, so it might dry out a little bit, but it is the middle of winter. So also, what you want to keep in mind, you do want airflow being able to get to your fire, but you don't want it to be so bad that it's blowing out. So good thing to consider building would be fire reflectors, firewalls to prevent wind from getting to it from all angles. Also, this will help redirect heat back to you when you're sleeping or when you're around the camp. So that is this is the spot here. So let's get on to the next step. The next thing that we need to look for is going to be tinder. Now tinder is anything that takes the minimum required spark to light. So this is going to be what we use to initially start a fire. There's, to the inexperienced eye, you might say, I don't see anything. I mean, what am I going to use? But you have to look hard because it is everywhere. Right here, for example, this stuff, check to make sure it's dry, but this is going to light really well. So will birch bark, wood cuttings, pulverized fir cones, pine needles, anything small, light, fluffy, feathery. If you can find bird down, if you find any, bird nests, take some of the feathers. Those light really well. So it is around. You just have to keep a keen eye open. And if you think you're going to be in a survival situation, or you already are in a survival situation, you should always be looking for tinder and always be gathering it, because you can never have too much, because you never know when you're going to need to start a fire on the spot. So always keep that in mind, and I'm going to start collecting this. So as you can see, I've collected some tinder here. Minimum amount of effort, really. Didn't even walk more than 20 yards away from my little pit that I've dug here, and I found a whole bunch of dry tinder. Just got to keep an eye open, even though it's snowing out here. I mean, there are a lot of stuff that is not getting wet. So this, along with some techniques I'm going to show you in a minute here, after I get to the next steps, I'll show you how to light this.